Yeah, what I was thinking is, I think it's just the validate that they're doing other conventions as well. Could it happen to others as well? Is it happening to us?
We can start the proceeding, otherwise we'll have to.
The feeling is that there would be maybe it'd be interesting to see if anything like
In the absence of the chairman, on behalf of the forum, luckily we have our vice chairman right here. He was not able to come as per the program, but yesterday he gave me a ring that he will be joining. We have Mr. S.K. Lawal here, who is vice chairman of the forum. Mr. S.K. Lawal, please. I welcome you all to this seminar, which I believe will make a distinctive contribution in an increasing manner in the years to come. While extending a warm welcome to you all, I would like to make a very specific mention, a welcome to Mr. Zulfi Sadak, Councillor Commercial, Canadian High Commission in Delhi. As in a way, we owe this seminar. If you are aware, the study planning forum was born out of management teachers program in Lucknow, which was conducted under the aegis of IIMs. Now, I have already circulated a fresh copy of the brochure to you all, so I don't want to go into details of the genesis of the seminar. I'd just like to highlight the design of the seminar in light of what is given in the brochure. Aims and basic concepts, various agreements such as trade in goods and services, the dispute settlement mechanisms, trade-related intellectual property rights, anti-dumping issues, etc. We have a very distinguished set of experts. My colleagues and chairman of the respective sessions will be introducing them all to you. I can only name in the timetable we have given the name Mr. Inpen Mishra, Mr. Dr. Anwar Ghoda, Mr. B.K. Jossi, Mr. Saptarishi, Mr. Raj Bhandari. These are the people who have been leading the WTO directly for more than a decade. And we are privileged to have them with us. And therefore, all of us have the opportunity to ask any kind of clarification which in normal course would have been difficult to come by. For the discussion on implications and impact, which was the second objective of the seminar, there are 3 different sessions focusing on implication and impact on education, agriculture, and industry. These have been divided into 2 concurrent tracks tomorrow, one for education and agriculture, and the other for industry. This is followed by summing up session to concretize the issues for further examination and action to be taken in the follow-up seminars and workshops. As you are aware, the opening seminar is only the first of a series of 9 seminars and workshop events that the forum is going to organize in a building-block manner in collaboration with 4 IIMs. The seminar is thus not an end in itself, but will lay the foundation for even more significant events of the forum in the future that will focus more on achieving a clearer understanding of the implication and impact of WTO on Indian economy and society and the development of appropriate coping strategies. It is necessary, therefore, ask as many questions as possible, even if you find that the time is not there for answering them. To facilitate this process, because we may land up with hundreds of questions, to facilitate this process, we request you, this is extremely important for us, we request you all to keep your question, keep on writing the questions as they come to you during the presentations. We will record it. Our faculty colleagues have joined me to help this process of collecting this from you for the purpose of recording. We may not get answer to all of them, but given the time constraint, but we would like to solicit and provide answer as and when possible, even after the seminar. For your information, maybe sir, today or tomorrow, we formally launch the website of SM Forum, which will be instrumental for your application just now. About the logistics arrangement, we will be meeting in this room, and tea and coffee will be here. And for lunch, we will be going to executive. We will make necessary transport arrangements for the purpose. Dinner will be an executive plate. Those of you who have not sent your nomination form may kindly fill up the same and pay the registration fee in room number 101 by lunchtime to enable us to complete our formalities. Please, one more important information, because we are in a very different location. Please do not forget to book your return journey transport today itself. The payment for the same is to be done by you in room number 101 tomorrow. This I am not talking to guest, honorable guest whom we have invited. We have made arrangements for discussions in two rooms, room number 107, this room, and room number 102, through teleconferencing facilities. This is an experiment that we are trying, that when the number of delegates increase without being congested, we will be able to take care. We look forward to an exciting and enriching discussion on various topics on which are very significant for us, and only time will tell how much justice we have been able to do. We welcome you all once again, and may I request Professor Singh.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Jahar Saha, my esteemed friend, Amar Rao, on the dais, very distinguished delegates. I join KK in extending very hearty welcome to all of you. And I feel extremely excited and very happy to see the galaxy of great scholars, intellectuals, great minds, and thought leaders who have been applying their minds to examine the impact of WTO on our country. I remember about 6-7 months back, KK came to my room and he said, well, we are thinking of doing something in the area of WTO. And I had a meeting with about 4 or 5 persons in Delhi, and I heard two kinds of semantics about WTO. The one semantic was World Terrorist Organization. That was one semantic about WTO. The second semantic which I heard in Delhi, and that was whose trade organization we are talking about. So when KK talked about starting something about WTO, I said, KK, you should not start in terms of seminar or conferences. We must start a movement in this country because we are extremely ignorant. We don't know about the implications of WTO so far as India is concerned. So my dear friends, I think that it's going to be a movement, and I am particularly happy. And I'm extremely happy that all the IIMs, together we are starting this kind of movement. And we are going to have around dozen seminars and conferences throughout the country. It's a kind of movement, and I was talking with Mr. Mitra, and I said, well, I think that you are going to help us in this area, and he was kind enough to say that yes, we are behind you. Few words about, I am a man of behavioral sciences, so I have been teaching throughout my life, leadership and RSS building, so I am the most ignorant fellow about WTO, and I must express my ignorance with all humility. However, I would like to say a few words, I think the way, as a common citizen, the way the whole thing has been bugging me. And I would like to start with a very powerful couplet in terms of WTO, and when we think about globalized world or the borderless world. And the couplet goes something like this, that अब हवाएं ही करेंगी रोशनी का फैसला, अब हवाएं ही करेंगी रोशनी का फैसला, और अब वही दीपक जलेगा, और अब वही दीपक जलेगा जान किसी हो अगर. Now the winds will decide the fate of the lands. I think that the wind taking place on the global level will decide the economic fate of the countries. And only those countries will survive, grow, prosper, excel, and compete effectively, which would be increasingly, in a sustainable manner, would be building economic strength in the country. I'm trying to provide you with some kind of context, and one thing that comes to me very handy, and that's the World Economic Forum report. The way World Economic Forum has seen India. And I'm talking about the competitiveness of India right from 91. And also the way World Economic Forum sees India and also the corporate world. In 91, the 10 countries were studied by the World Economic Forum, and the ranking of India was 10th. 92, 13 countries, and our ranking was 11th. 93, out of 15 countries, India was assigned the rank of 13. 94, disappointing, out of 41 countries, the ranking of India was 34. 95, out of 48 countries, the ranking of India was 39. 96, out of 49, we were ranked 45. 98, out of 52 countries, India was assigned the rank of 50th. 99, out of 59, we are ranked as 52. Continuously, the competitive power compared to other nations have been really going down. And I was asking a question that is it our competitive power going down or something else is happening? And perhaps my answer was that other nations are running much faster than India, and perhaps we have to do something about it. Let me also try to provide some idea the way World Economic Forum sees the nation as such, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of openness, in terms of financial institutions, so on and so forth. And I'm going to give you the figure of 96 because I don't have 97, 98 figure. In terms of openness, out of 49 countries, the ranking of India has been 49th. So 49 is the reference point for everything. In terms of governance, and I'm talking about the public governance, India has been ranked as 20th. In terms of its strength in governance, the ranking of India has been 20th. In terms of financial institutions, arrangement of financial systems, India has been ranked as 33. Infrastructure, a big jolt. And I think that we should think about it because ultimately we are going to examine the competitiveness of the nation and what role government can play. In terms of infrastructure, India has been ranked as 48 out of 49. Technology, we are ranked 35. Labor, in terms of productivity, our ranking has been 33. Civil institutions, our ranking has been 39th. But we can have, sarcastically I'm saying, we can have a great sense of pride to say that in the area of corruption, which leads to tremendous transactional cost and the operating cost, when we are going to compete globally, we are ranked as number 4. Let me try to provide you some kind of idea about the corporate world. The way the World Economic Forum sees the corporate world of India. In terms of innovations, creativity, Out of 49, we are ranked as 33. Risk-taking capability, we are ranked as 42. Willingness to dedicate, empower people, we are ranked as 38. Use of information technology, our ranking has been 44. In terms of customization and customer-focused society, the ranking of India has been 43. Time to reach market, and that's where speed comes. Time to reach market, we are ranked as 47. In terms of quality orientation, India has been ranked as 42. Strategic thinking and strategy implementation, the ranking of India has been 43. Global managerial experience and global mindset, India has been ranked as 44. Strong corporate board, the India has been ranked as 46, the composition of the corporate board, and it has tremendous impact on the policies, strategic thinking of the corporate world, and that's where we are ranked as 48. In terms of available good and competent managerial professionals, India has been ranked as 18th. So we've got the good governance, 20th, and in terms of quality of people, India has been ranked as 18th. And I see future very clearly, and I think that I have found in physiology that we are going to see a very powerful Darwinian dance. One is survival, one is the fittest will survive. There is no place for those persons, those countries, or those nations, or those corporations which are not very powerful, not very fit. And if we are going to participate in the Olympiad of the world, I think that we have to gear up. And I would like to say three things. 90% world trade is transacted by WTO, through WTO. I think that India doesn't have a choice not to join. So now the question is not because I see tremendous amount of cynicism. This country will be swallowed. This whole Swadeshi movement and this one. I don't think that we have any choice. I think that we have to build a mindset that join it, make a dent. Because that pains me when I see that 16% world population India has got. But in terms of our share in the GDP of the world, we are hardly 1%. I think that we have to get somewhere. And that's where I would like to say two things. India has been always through centuries having a mindset of inward-looking destination. We see India as a market. We don't see globe as a market. It has been always inward-looking. Our strategy has been always depending. Can we get away from the strategy of depending to the strategy of competing? Not only to the strategy of competing. But, and I've been talking with my friends that when we talk about the joint ventures can never create multinational scheme. If you want to be truly multinational, we should forget about the root of joint ventures. Because joint ventures, you are not allowed to accept the market of the country where you are going to have joint venture, or with which we are going to have joint venture. They are exploiting our market. I think it's time that if you think about the global organizations or multinational organizations, we should think about the globe and transact the business. If China provides a great opportunity in terms of productivity, in terms of discipline, in terms of good economic ambience, we should go to China. We should do business there. And that's kind of mindset. So I would like to say it's a time where this country must get away from the strategy of defending to the strategy of competing. And maybe after some time, from the strategy of competing to the strategy of leading into the positive. I'm very sure with the intellectual power we have got, the kind of people we have got, the kind of resources we have got, India has got a great future. And I believe, and very strongly believe, that 21st century is going to be century of India, and India will make a very significant contribution, to the global scene. These few words, I hope that these are some of the random thoughts that came to my mind, and I thought that this great august body, thought leaders are here, and they will be applying their mind and discussing some of the things of how to make India as a competing and leading nation. Again, I extend a very hearty welcome to you. I'm sure your stay is going to be extremely comfortable here. We have got a nice surrounding. those who are guests staying on the campus, I was requesting them, have a morning walk. I feel that morning walk provides a very great spiritual power here. And I feel that we are trying to build a great spiritual power on the campus here. Thank you very much.
May I request Professor Jahar Sahab, who is the chairman of the forum, to say a few words. Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasant pleasure to welcome you to this seminar on WTO. Before I talk about the seminar, let me just say a few words about the forum, which Krishna Kumar might have said. It was set up about 4 years back to provide a platform where faculty members, students, researchers, practitioners could get together and discuss the issues which are of concern in strategic management and which needs to be investigated. The idea is to generate a set of research issues which could be pursued, followed up, and see that they are accepted. Professor Krishna Kumar took the initiative to form this forum, and we had 3 conferences so far, and they went off well. The 4th one is going to be in IIM Ahmedabad on May 24 to 26. These conferences were very successful. That's why one started looking at what more can be done. Could we meet more often? And in that context, the suggestion of conducting seminars, workshops, which will have impact on the managerial decisions, strategic management decisions of organizations came up. WTO and IPR issues came automatically because that is the concern almost everywhere. Every forum was being discussed. So we thought first that can we have a seminar where we can create an awareness on WTO, create an awareness of what those issues are, and then at the end can we sort of formulate a research agenda which could be pursued. And with this idea, with this thing in mind, we thought of organizing a set of workshops. As Krishna Kumar might have said, that the next 2 years we plan to do about 9 workshops. If you had seen the design of the workshop, we are saying that first day we are going to invite, we have invited the experts who have worked, and from them trying to learn as much as possible on WTO. Because unless that understanding comes, it is very difficult to do work on this. So we want to know which are the issues which are going to impinge on us in organizations and all. And it may be different from different sectors. So what we want to know from the experts is that what these issues are, and ask them questions to find out where they can have an impact in organizations. Next day, we want to group the participants into different sectors and probe some of these issues in different sectors. And at the end, what we want to see, whether we can jot down a set of things that needs to be investigated and then bring them back to a forum like this at a later date. In this context, I remember one TV discussions, where I think it was before the first meeting on WTO.
one of the things which really struck me at that point, that we were going to join the WTO discussions, but we really did not have any strategy. We were all, in that discussion, we were all fighting with each other. We said, the government has not done this, you have not done this. And only one person at that point, I remember, I don't mind mentioning his name, Manishankar, had said that, look, let's see, we are going there, can we formulate a strategy? And can we at least think of what are those elements that should go into the strategy, and then go to that meeting. And since then, and another thing at that point of time, it was very clear that it is a negotiation. Nobody is going to give you what you want. It has to be negotiated, and it has to be negotiated in this way that you get best that you could get. So it is always going to be a give and take kind of thing. So unless we prepare for that, there is no way we will achieve that. So, and since then I have been sort of looking for an opportunity to see some of these things can be done. So what we want to do is that the research projects, undertaking this research project, some way the forum is going to facilitate. And only request, personal request to us is, personal request from me is that could we look at these issues, many of these issues, firstly, to get as much insight as possible, but organize them so that somebody, if he wants to use it on the negotiation table, can do that. Because ultimately, we are not going to do that. It's a set of people who are assigned to do these kinds of negotiation. They should be using them. So all we would like to do that can we provide them the way, that insight that we get through our research and other activities. I'm sure that all of you will enjoy the next 2 days deliberations, and all of you would also join us in subsequent deliberations on the WTO. Thank you very much.
As a mark of our resolve that what we have written in the brochure, we are going to do it. We are going to jointly light this lamp in front of all of you and request Professor Jahasa, Professor Rao, Professor Peter Singh, Professor Bose, Professor Kalu, and Mr. Mishra to please join in lighting this lamp.
He is the director, IIM Calcutta, a part of our family members, and he will be chairing the next session. And our keynote speaker is Mr. Nipendra Mishra. He is right here. I was looking for him. and he is the Special Secretary Ministry, and his key thing has been that he is not only reading and writing on WTO, but he is actively participating in all the negotiations and its implementation in India. And therefore, it is our privilege to have him here and share his experience and first-hand information with us. Thank you. We welcome Mr. Basu.
As soon as the point is to you, kindly jot down and pass on to us without disturbing the presentation, and we'll be noting it down right now on computer so that we have a current inventory at the point of time.
Let me add my word of good morning and welcome to this opening session. It's an overview. It's an overview of WTO. And without further ado, I would request our speaker, Incidentally Mishra, to make the presentation. Thank you.
Who have had opportunity of working and interacting with you. I propose to deal WTO, introducing the subject more in the context of what is happening today, what's its character, and what sort of state of play is, and what is the road ahead for India. Because I noticed that the program for the 2 days covers almost everything relating to WTO. And I agree, hope that as you conclude the session tomorrow, most of the participants will have become the great pundits on the subject of World Trade Organization. I start with the observation of the director, who very rightly said that in trading, over years we have been inward looking. And the result of that has been twofold. One, regarding our approach, our actual activity, policies, and also about our responses. We are, whether we like it or not, we have a strong preference for protectionist features in our economy. Many of the learned speakers would possibly dwell on the subject in some manner. But the kind of concern, the furor which is at the moment, you read almost in the newspapers every day, it seems as if the greatest tragedy to this nation would be opening of the economy, integrating with the global trends, liberalization. And we are almost linking the sovereignty issues, our social, cultural issues, and the debate is on that almost everything will be lost if the globalization path is pursued. And as rightly said, the World Trade Organization is being given different names as people are liking. The other feature of this approach has been that whenever we are debating, whenever we are negotiating diplomatically at any international forum, participating, we are most of the time doing accounting which is in the nature of damage. We first estimate the costs and we hardly ever estimate the benefits. And the moment we are estimating the costs, in our whole negotiating stance, we become responsible. We don't then carry a proactive agenda. We don't then present what is good for the country. We start thinking what will be bad for the country and therefore I don't want it. There is a great deal of difference in this, and this has been one of the primary features of our most of the international negotiations. We have not proactively pursued our benefits, our agenda, our goals. And therefore, I feel that this strategic forum initiative is a very timely initiative, because with a series of seminars, it would be possible for the stakeholders to present to the government what should be our goal, what should be our destination, what should be our approach in any future negotiation on this very important subject of international relations. A minute on just, I'm sure all of you know, and some of these things, pardon my introducing them, but just as a precaution, I would just like to say, first point we need to appreciate is the kind of difference between the WTO and the GATT. We all, over the years as a student, and have been reading about that. In 1994, suddenly we stopped about this so-called GATT and got into a new feature, a new element called WTO. And therefore it is important to appreciate what is the key difference between the WTO and the GATT. The first difference, which is obvious, is that the GATT, which was more, or at least some ad hocism was there in its character, that became a very permanent kind of organization, a permanent feature, because WTO got its legal ratification from member states as well. Almost all legislatures, the governments had to ratify the WTO. The second important thing became the scope of WTO versus GATT. WTO has really widened its scope, and the kind of agreements which are now covered, which would be discussed today and tomorrow, you would notice that almost every economic activity is now getting influenced either directly or indirectly. What was only being discussed in GATT as treatment for goods, now apart from goods you have services, you have even in goods you have government procurement being discussed, you have TRIPS, intellectual property rights, and there is already a debate to enlarge the agenda of WTO, to burden the WTO with some more agenda items, and therefore it is important that we keep a very knowledgeable track on what is happening in WTO, how far it should go and where it must stop. The third important difference is, and it is because of the third that many developed countries want to resort to this route for solving many other problems which are not necessarily trade related, is capacity of WTO to have a dispute resolution through a mechanism, a very formal dispute mechanism exists in WTO which did not exist with the GATT, and therefore many countries, you talk to European Union and say, ask the senior most dignitaries there, why do you want investment to come in WTO? And the developed country representatives, quietly in confidence, will tell you, well, you know, the reason is that we are very concerned, we have made large investment in many countries, and we want to cover, we want to see that our multinationals are properly protected, and therefore if the investment agreement comes in the WTO, we will have some kind of safeguard. This is the, apart from all economic and theoretical reasons, if you want to just scratch them a little, they will tell you where they have made maximum investment, country and even name, you know that, and therefore they want that somehow the WTO must cover up the investment work as well. The second point I wanted to just again bring it to your notice are the WTO principles, which of course are the principles even which existed earlier. The first we need to appreciate is its commitment for market access and freer trade. And how does it achieve it? It achieves through lowering trade barriers. Successive series of negotiations continue. They are either debates which take place almost every day. We seem to think that outside world that WTO, some negotiations starts and it stops like that. No. The fact of the matter is, believe me, that every day in Geneva, something is happening on one subject or the other which requires the Ministry of Commerce continued message sending what sort of intervention India must make on that particular subject. Because the endeavor is to have some degree of greater market access, liberalization. Ultimately, it leads to negotiations in the long run, but the preparatory process, the debate, the negotiations, the positions of the countries, appreciation, coalition of interests, groupings, they are happening almost on a regular basis. Obviously, what are the attempts? There will be reduction and binding of tariffs. There will be general elimination on restrictions on imports and exports, and there will be attempt to introduce greater and greater predictability through binding commitments on various sorts of agreements. The two other important principles which all of us know, the principles of non-discrimination, and they are talked very often in the context of most favored nation treatment and national treatment. National treatment obviously is very clear that the goods, once they have entered your territory, whether foreign or your domestic goods, will have the same treatment. Most favored nation treatment at times is a kind of a misnomer, but what it says really is that whatever you give treatment to one, you will give the same treatment to all member countries. So whatever is the most favored, all children of that mother is the same, and therefore the same treatment must be given to everyone. I now briefly touch on what are our concerns in WTO. And I had some dotted points, but I see one item, India's international transaction under WTO. And there the concerns have been brought out very succinctly and better. So I just read the headlines of that. A, perception that widening scope of multilateral trade organizations like WTO will impair the policy freedom of movement. That is number one concern. That is, we will have no longer any kind of that freedom. Farmers fear that the government may not be able to provide them subsidies, urea prices may go up, and even the fear that your neem may be taken away from here, or you will not have the capacity to, in the morning, to use the neem bar, because there is some kind of patenting of the neem which has taken place. Worry that cheap foreign products may sweep away several Indian producers from the domestic market, giving their cost disadvantages. And here, of course, implicit in this is also the concern that the domestic liberalization has not taken place and that it is not a level playing field. Third, that the increased dependence on imports as well as the failure of domestic industry due to imports may lead to worsening unemployment and related socio-economic problems. Fourth, tendency of the developed nations to bring under WTO more and more issues that are considered by India and many others as non-trade related. And these broadly, it is true, these broadly are the key concerns that possibly from today till tomorrow, we in some manner or the other will have to address them. But before we address them, let us look back and see what our director made the point. What are the alternatives before India? Assuming that we want to do international trade. I mean, we don't want to produce everything, consume everything, close the market. If that is not there, what are the alternatives? We could enter into bilateral agreements. We could enter into regional trading agreements. Or we could enter and encourage a multilateral trading agreement, which is WTO. Now, what is our share in the trade? A lot of ranking was given by our director. Our share in trade, in global trade, is not even 1%. Therefore, it is very evident that we are not a great player. We are not a very powerful player. We are not the opinion makers most of the time if it is going to be a bilateral trade. And believe those who are practicing, it's not that the bilateral agreements don't take place, they do. But they are all under the umbrella of today multilateral. But if there are bilateral agreements, you and I who read all the newspapers know what the tyranny of bilateralism could be. You read in the papers only 3 days back that if duty on soda ash is not reduced by India, then GSP preference given by USA will be withdrawn. In US-Jordan agreement, which again is a bilateral agreement, seeks performance of core labor standards by Jordan if they wish to have availed the facility of certain concessional duty. European Union says that if you want GSP on a bonus, you got to abide by environment and labor norms. The day is not far when many of the bilateral agreements will even talk of human rights. Now, are we very important player in this kind of a game plan? I leave it to you. Now, let's come to regional trade. Today, 60% approximately, and there are a large number of regional free trade blocks, regional trading blocks which are there. India is really not a player in this for 2-3 reasons. One, geographical. Two, even our SARC has not yet become a reality, political reasons. Problem with neighboring countries. But the fact is that we have not yet really operationalized the regional trading agreement of SARC. We have not really become great players in other regional trading blocks. But if you see the map which was recently published in the World Trade Organization's report, the entire world map you will find almost having the color of regional trading agreements. You have NAFTA, you have European Union, now China, Japan and South Korea are talking, Singapore is talking, Egypt has signed with EU, South Africa has signed with EU. The new US Trade Representative, Zellick, has said he is looking for Greater America, FTAA, Free Trade Agreement of Americas, and series of regional trading agreements are developed. We are not a great player. Therefore, if you are not a great player in bilateralism, you are not really a potential player in regional trading blocks, Is it not worthwhile? Is it not in the interest of the country to strengthen the features of multilateralism, where one country, one vote, equal voice matters, where the dispute between USA and India, dispute between USA and the smallest country in the world could be decided on certain. I don't deny there is a power play. I don't deny the influence is not there. There is going to be influences. But at least comparatively, one could say that the transparency, the rule-based system does operate. And given all these features, I would say that before we loosely talk about coming out of WTO, which often you read in the newspapers, we should think twice before we say that we must come out of WTO. It is easy to come out of WTO. It only requires 3 to 6 months. But it has taken more than 10 years for China and not yet a member. It has taken more than 7 years and Russia is not yet a member. And believe me, the accession terms are so tedious and so much weighed in favor of the members that every time the new member, he has to negotiate with each country, each member country, get the concurrence of each member country before his member or that country's membership is ratified in WTO. Today, that is why you notice that the US and EU have been able to get plenty of concessions from China, just because China today thinks for economic reasons, for trade reasons, it is important for China to be the member of WTO. What is the state of play now in WTO? Because you will be reading a lot in the newspapers that the new ministerial conference is going to take place in Qatar in November of 2001. And therefore I thought it's my duty to at least sensitize you with what's really happening. Ministerial conference is not in any round. Ministerial conference is provided in the WTO agreement. It must take place every 7 years. Each 2-year periodicity it should be taking place. There have been ministerials earlier. There was a ministerial in Seattle which failed. There is going to be a ministerial in Qatar from 9th of November for 4 days. It is the highest decision-making body where the political heads are represented in WTO and they take stock of situations. It is in our interest to see that the ministerial conference of Qatar succeeds. A failure of Seattle, a repeat of failure in Qatar will be fatal for a multilateral trading system like WTO. And a failure of multilateral trading system would mean growth of regionalism. As it is, some countries are saying we developed a fatigue. There is very little movement which is taking place in WTO, so we will go the regional path. And after all, it is not violative of WTO. There is Article 24 which provides for regional trading arrangements. Now, the regional trading arrangements were actually provided as a transition to WTO. They were not to be seen in parallel with WTO. And what we must ensure is that the regionalism does not grow as a reply to any fatigue or any depression or any disappointment with the World Trade Organization. And therefore, it is in our interest to ensure the success of ministerial. The ministerial conference will have agenda. It has a mandated agenda, which is called inbuilt agenda, which is already there in the work program. The negotiations on agriculture, the negotiations on services, that is the second round of negotiations. The first, of course, took place that day. The review of trims, these are already there, and Indian position is that the ministerial must give priority to inbuilt agenda. There is one important thing, and that is important for us to understand. In Seattle, we had presented to the body what is now known commonly as implementation concerns. The implementation concerns are set of features where India India and like-minded group of countries pointed out that there is an element of inequity which is there in the agreement. Because of that, the developing nations could not be the beneficiary of those perceived estimates which were there during the review round agreement. It is true that all estimates have gone haywire as far as the benefit, actual dollars and cents are concerned to the developing countries. So those sets of inequities, those sets of imbalances in the agreements, they were pointed out, and we, along with others, suggested these be done. The second feature of this implementation concern was what is called S&D provisions, special and differential treatment. Now, they are right directive principles. In many places of agreements, there are special and differential provisions for developing countries. They have not been operationalized because they were never part of a very specific agreement. They were best endeavor clauses. And therefore, no developed country made any domestic legislation for them. Our position is that you must address the implementation concerns first before you go to the fourth ministerial, which is Qatar. This is the debate, discussions, groups which have been going on for the last 2 years. There have been series of meetings in Geneva how to achieve. Obviously, there is a great divide. There is a developed country and developing country divide on this. The fact of the matter is that on the implementation concerns, today now it is month of February, end February, we are talking of November, but not much has happened in addressing those issues. And that is one of the India's key position, that must receive some degree of political resolution before we enter the gates of Qatar ministerial. Sure. The last point is on Qatar again, that the developed countries want a new round. They are not satisfied with ministerial. They say ministerial conference doesn't excite us because there is no great agenda. We must, for liberalization, move forward in a time-bound manner, and therefore we must have a very specific, progressive, incremental agenda already identified. And reason for that is something else. The reason is that in agriculture negotiations, which are going to take place, the sacrificers are going to be the developed countries. Because most of the demand, our paper, if you see on the website of Commerce Ministry, and it can be downloaded from Geneva also, it's all open now, all papers, all countries on agriculture, our 4 papers are there. Then every developing country is demanding that the export subsidies, other forms of subsidies, which runs into, we read the figure, $341 billion is the subsidy given by developed countries to agriculture. So we are asking for elimination. And why? Because we say that it is a market distorting feature. The prices of primary commodities internationally have come down so badly that countries such as India don't become the genuine players in the international trade. So we are seeking dismantling. It is already indicated roadmap in the agreement on agriculture. So the developed countries' position is, generally, they may not say so openly, is that we are going to be great sacrificers in any future agreement on agriculture. Therefore, it is necessary that we are compensated elsewhere. And if we have to be compensated elsewhere, and in order to address our constituency, as we have to address our constituency, then those compensations can only be there if issues such as investment, environment, labor, negotiations and tariff, many other issues are included and a new round is launched. If the new round is launched, then we'll have a balanced menu. Everybody will have both give and take, a bargaining position, and therefore we'll go. Our point of view is that why should we make down payment twice? We have made down payment once. Why should we be asked to make When it comes to it is the turn of the other side. That's where most of the nuances are presently being played. The last point is what is the roadmap ahead for India. The roadmap is we must proactively engage